So today we're going to be doing an oil change on our 2018 Yamaha R3. What we're going to be needing is an oil filter. I'm using OEM from Yamaha. This is the filter number right over here. I'm also using Motul 1040 Technosynthesis. I bought it from Pro 6 Cycles for almost 50 bucks. They're a great local shop, and I do a lot of my business needs and part shopping with them. They offer track days and all the other stuff. Staff's very friendly and knowledgeable. Recommend hitting them up if you are in the Etobicoke area. Also, I got this because I don't have an oil filter wrench. Also a 12 mil open wrench or even sockets for the drain plug. Okay, so let's get started. Secondly, we're also going to need an oil catch pan. Just for when it's going to be leaking. Yeah, so let's start. So we're just going to let the bike warm up a little bit. As you can see, my oil light just came on over here, and it is at almost 4,000 over there. I just wanted to do a little bit early. I'll also show you how to reset that oil light over there. To start, let's start the bike, warm up the engine a little bit. So check that it's not in gear. Ignition. While it warms up a little bit, I'll start some prep work. So we'll just start by taking off the oil filler cap right over here. It should be on hand tight. So once that's off, we're gonna go with the drain plug, which is just on the other side. We're gonna either take an open wrench and a small little socket, 12 mil, and open it up. It's this bolt right over here, if you see right there. So you don't need to take off anything. If you really want to, you can, but that's the drain plug, and up top is the filter. I usually go from underneath because there's enough access. So this is your drain plug. When you take it off, make sure you have this crush nut over here. And when you do a new oil change, you want to make sure you replace these because these are pretty much a singles one-time use. Over here, see that little piece right over here that came off? Right here, that one. So when taking off the filter, be careful you don't touch your headers because they're going to be hot. The filter should be hand tight when you take it off and take it back on. My oil is kind of alright, but that's the oil filter, the same OEM one. It's just leaking a little bit more. Another good rule of thumb is also to use some brake clean just to clean up everything over here and all your headers and pipes, because once you start the engine, it's gonna smell pretty bad and be smoky. So, yeah. With the Yamaha filters, they already come pre-lubed, but I sometimes just like taking a bit of the new oil and just putting it over the gasket again. This is the new crush nut for the drain plug. When you install it, you want to make sure that the flat part is on the outside, and you want that beveled part facing down. So it's gonna look something like that, because once you crush it, this flat part's going to be on the inside of the lower pan, and then it's going to create a better seal. So that's where the new oil filter goes. We're just going to take it. We're going to go and put it on. Just make sure it's seated properly. You don't want it to be seated incorrectly. It should freely go. And then once again, it's just going to be hand tight. Because I had some oil left over from last time, I'm just going to do a little bit of a fluid flush. So I'm just going to pour the rest of this into the engine. And you should see that it's leaking. With doing this, it just pretty much kind of cleans out the other oil that was in there and stuff like that. So it just gets rid of whatever else was in there, and once you kind of see that it's a little bit more clear compared to what was coming out earlier, gonna plug up the drain cap, make sure it's snug. Once again, hand tight, nothing too crazy. I think it's 10 to 14 pounds of torque, not much. And then we're gonna fill her up. I believe the oil levels are over here and it takes about 2 liters. So with the drain plugged installed and with the new filter installed as well, we're gonna top it up on some oil. One thing that I found out is if you take an old water bottle and you cut off the end, the nozzle usually fits this thread. So that's usually what I do if I don't have a funnel, and it creates a nice little seal and it makes it easier to pour. So with that, we're gonna take our new oil and we're gonna put it in. It takes about 2 liters to 2.5. So my motorcycle's on stands, it's already leveled. To check, you want to make sure your motorcycle's nice and even, and it's going to be between the 2 notches that I said earlier. If you're going over, that's not good because it's too much and then your engine's like suffocating. If it's too little, then it's being starved. So you want to make sure that it's in between those 2 levels. And now I'm just going to start it up. Before I do, I'm just going to use some brake clean with a shop towel, and I'm just going to clean up all the other oil that's around it. And then with that, so with everything cleaned up, we're just going to double check that nothing's leaking, everything installed. We're going to double check that everything's okay. So yeah, quarter turn, it's locked up, and the other one's okay. The filler cap's back on, the oil level's okay, and now we're gonna start the bike. So to reset the oil light, you gotta make sure it's on the oil trip setting, and you hold the top button until it starts flashing. Click it again and hold, and it should go back to 0. Once it's done to 0, it's good, and then you can go back into your settings. And now we're just gonna start the bike. And you can see that after a couple minutes the oil light disappeared. So she's good to go. We're gonna run her a little bit, and I'm just gonna take her out and see if everything's okay. Just double check that your oil light goes away and your temperatures don't go up. Once again as well, double check that nothing's leaking from the bottom. Those were from earlier. And everything's good to go. Check your local guidelines what to do with your oil. I know here we have little depots where you can take and recycle it. One thing as well is when you drain your oil, make sure you take a good look at it, because sometimes you can see what's up, right? If there's shards or if there's scarring or even the color and texture. I know some places will actually take your oil and sample it and see what's going on with it. So I'm not doing that because it's not a race bike, but if you're very curious to how good or bad your engine is, you can always get your oil sampled.